Greetings, viewers. We're here with a pretty big announcement, and that is the announcement of the Fire Emblem Fates Marathon. This is kind of coming out of the blue, but I've given it some thought. I've been wanting to play Fates for a long time, and it's such a huge game, and there's so much stuff to do that I think now is a pretty good time to do it. And we can still do like other games while I'm doing it, but I still want to do this one right now. So I guess let's just get started and talk about what we're going to do for this game. Now, I don't usually do videos like this when it comes to playing new games. I usually just kind of go right into it. But with Fates, it's such a big game that I kind of have to set some rules before we go in, I guess. So here we go. Let's start off with the beginning of the game. So, at the very start of the game, the first 6 chapters are the tutorial. Those will all take place in their separate episodes. I think for Paralogue and Chapter 1, I'll include that in Episode 1. And then Chapter 2 is Episode 2, Chapter 3 is Episode 3. Those episodes will be very short since they aren't very long chapters, but I want to isolate each chapter to its own episode, if that makes sense. And then comes after that is the split in Fate, where you get to choose your path. Everyone knows the whole Corrin chooses his path, and he chooses Smash! But now, our order is we're going to be going from Birthright to Conquest to Revelations to the regular DLC to the story DLC, and then after that we can do any extras that the game has to offer, which I'll talk about later. Each of these will be in their respective playlists as well, that being the Birthright playlist, Conquest playlist, the Revelations playlist with DLC after it, then the story DLC will have its own, and then I'll have one big playlist that has everything all in order, but the first 6 chapters are always going to be at the start, and I think this video will also be at the start of that playlist. So now getting into the rules, I've played this game quite a lot, more than any other Fire Emblem game. I kind of hate to say it because it's not my favorite. It's definitely not my favorite Fire Emblem game, but I played it more than any other just because of how much stuff it has to offer. Especially with like PvP and stuff, which I'll get into later once again. But we can start off with our standard rules. We're going to try to make this run pretty challenging, especially since this game is challenging. We're going to play on Lunatic Classic every single route. That's all Birthright, Conquest, Revelations. And we cannot have any deaths. Any deaths. Any unit that we get isn't allowed to die. So that's across all the routes. We cannot, if a unit falls, we fail, and we have to reset the map. I know that's like a whole thing, but like whatever, it's fine. We want no death run here. We want like perfect endings if we can. Next up is no visiting castles for free skills, materials, and units. So in the game, after Chapter 6, you get introduced to this feature called My Castle, which is like your home base that takes place in between every single map. Every single main map, that is, and side maps as well. There you can do grinding maps sometimes in certain routes, and you can also use Wi-Fi or local to visit other people's castles, and then from there you can take some materials, and if you challenge the castle, you can take skills such as like Luna, Rend Heaven, Broken skills, Soul, Breaker skills that allow you to dodge things really well. We cannot use that feature. That kind of breaks the game. It completely gets rid of any challenge the game has to offer, and it can make you just like cheese through so many chapters, and it's a little cheap, so we're definitely not going to be using that at all. We can still like change our class to get other skills, but that way it's more legit, and we have to use seals that are given to us in that route. So I don't want to be using any material grinding at all, like none of that. Next up, we will also be doing all of the paralogues. Now what paralogues are is they're like side story missions that don't directly affect the main story, but you basically get a new unit or some sort of treasure for doing them. So regarding those, there are 4 that are like gonna happen around the base game. There is the first one happens after, I believe, Chapter 6, 7, or 8. We do that one, and we get a free unit. Then there are 3 My Castle challenge battles that are invasions. They're not really paralogues, but we will be doing all of those. They'll probably be in like a side episode or something. So we have to do all those, and they do get us EXP, which is nice. And then we have paralogues after 2 characters escort with each other, and then have a child. Yep, there are children in this game, and I don't know why, because they're kind of stupid, but you know what? It's whatever. I'm not the biggest fan of them, but you know what? It's whatever. It's what's got to happen. It was popular in Awakening, so it's going to be popular in Fates, of course. Thank goodness 3 Houses didn't have any. Oh my goodness. They were actually planning to, but they didn't. Anyway, I have it on here across all routes, so that means if I miss, let's say I get like, I think each route has like 10 child units. I can't remember off the top of my head, but let's say there's like 10 in each route. Let's say I do I get 8 of the children in Birthright. That means for Revelations, which is when Revelations you get all the units come together. That's not really a spoiler. That's literally advertised in the actual route. All the units cross over. So pretty much Revelations is our second chance to do paralogues, so we can get everybody back together. But if I've done a paralogue in a different route, so let's say I do, who's a child unit? Hisame. In Birthright, let's say I do Hisame's paralogue. If I have Hinata marry somebody in Revelations, I cannot do that paralogue. I just won't be doing it. I can do it after I beat the game, so if I can get the unit, but I will not be doing it during the game, so I don't get that free EXP and another unit. So basically, child units are limited to once per set of routes. But I do have to do all of them, so like, because Conquests, I'm probably not going to be doing a lot of them, maybe like 3 or 4. That means I'll have to do like the other 6 in Revelations, if that makes sense. But we only have to do one once, it'll just be across the routes. And lastly, with our standard rules comes the no DLC rule. Now, we can use DLC after we beat the game, once again, because I'm going to be showing it off in my Revelations file after we beat the game, but during the game, for all the routes, we cannot use any DLC. There are DLCs that give you extra money, EXP, items, different classes. We cannot make use of any of those, because that would make the game far too much easier, and we want to play the game kind of how it was made to be, mainly intended without any use of DLC, even though it's going to be much harder without it. But that is not the end of our rules. We still have a few more. That comes the Birthright and Revelations rules. Now, if you're wondering, like, why is it Birthright and Revelations? Well, it has to do with how these two games work. So basically, in the game, there are 3 routes, as I've already said. Birthright, Conquest are like the 2 side routes where you side with one kingdom. Revelations, you kind of refuse to choose a side, and then you kind of go off and get everyone to join you. For Birthright and Revelations, they actually feature grinding in between missions, while Conquest doesn't. So Birthright and Revelations, they're a lot easier. Their main story maps are a lot easier as well. Well, some of them. Some of them are just kind of stupid. A lot of the chapters in this game are stupid, but a lot of them are also really designed well, especially Conquest, except the endings. But yeah, for Birthright and Revelations, they have the grinding missions, which we'll get into a little bit later. But first off, we have no permanent stat boosters. That's a common thing throughout Fire Emblem. There's permanent stat boosters littered throughout the game that you can collect. We cannot use those, as they'll like kind of make the game easier. And if we get like an unlucky roll, it's whatever. But here's the thing: in Lunatic, another thing, I didn't write this down. In Lunatic Fates, your level ups are certain. So if I soft reset, let's say Corrin gets a level up, and he only gets defense. If I soft reset and then load the game again, I'll still get defense. There's no way to change that. Every time he will get defense. It is set in. Only in normal and hard mode do they are they rolled by RNG. It's a little strange. I don't know why they have it set up that way, but I guess it's so it can like kind of balance itself out, so you can't get RNG screwed. But sometimes you still get like unlucky quote unquote level ups, but it'll just give you luck, and then maybe like 2 level ups from now you'll get almost every stat except for 1 or something. I don't know. It balances out your level ups pretty much to make sure every unit kind of remains balanced and none of them really fall off, I guess. But none of them are also overpowered unless they're meant to be. Another thing is the no boots rule. I'm pretty sure in every route you can get up to either 1 pair of boots, and then with path bonuses you can get more. I won't be using path bonuses as well. If you know what that is, if you bought the DLC, you can pretty much, while you're in my castle, you get some bonuses for using the DLC. We're not using those. As well as my castle rewards, we're not using those either. If you visit other castles or win in other castles when you battle them, you get bonus rewards. We're not using those either, but I didn't write that down, so just wanted to say that real quick. But yeah, I think boots are almost kind of cheating, so I'm going to say we cannot use boots and Birthright in Revelations, just because it feels like, I don't know, it kind of feels like cheating. It's like having a unit that isn't in a right class, or like having an armor unit move farther, even though armor units suck, so you'd never want to do that. But you know, it's just like, no boots, I just don't like it. It just feels almost like cheating. I know it's there, but we're not using him for Birthright and Revelations. Next thing is, must prevent story-related deaths if possible. So, what's interesting about Birthright Revelations, I'm not going to say which one, because it'll be a spoiler, there is a death that happens in the story, but you can prevent it if you get an A support with that character. Now, I will be doing this. I won't say who it is, but I will be doing that so that character will survive. So, pretty much we have to prevent that. And I'll tell you when it happens, when it does, but I'll make sure to not spoil who it is. But yes, that character can die if you do not A support them before a certain chapter. And then last but not least is no more than 2 grinding missions in between chapters and less need for support. So what I mean by this is between chapters, like I said, you can grind, but I'm limiting myself to 2 of them because I don't want to make all my units super overpowered, but I also want to train up some of my lower level units because I might want to change up my team a little bit. That way I can show off at least every unit a little bit. But what I mean is, unless the need for supports, that is that kind of goes back to my other rule of the paralogue. So let's say in Revelations, I've already done my 2 grinding missions, but I still need to get like freaking Arthur to A support because I'm not using him. So I get Arthur to S support with somebody else. That way I can marry him, then I can do his paralogue and get Percy. that's the only time when I can grind missions. But when that happens, I will only be allowed to use the very beginning Bottomless Canyon, and only do that for support. So basically, it gives me like 1 EXP per kill, so I barely get any EXP, but it does give me a lot of support points. So that's the only thing that comes with that breaks that rule, and that's only for if I need to, which is most likely only going to be in Revelation. Now, next comes up is the Conquest rules. This is a little bit more complex. So, as I mentioned, Conquest is the hardest of the 3 routes. It's honestly one of the hardest Fire Emblem games that I've played. It's the hardest Fire Emblem game that I've played. Conquest Lunatic is extremely hard, and where it comes with its difficulty is very challenging maps, but you can do them after lots of learning up until like chapter 25-ish or so. Around chapter 25 through the endgame, it gets really, really unfair. Endgame is probably the most unfair thing I've almost ever seen in a video game. I have done endgame once, legit, one time when I was younger, and it took so many attempts. So if you can see right here, I say no permanent stat boosters until endgame after 10 attempts. So if I attempt the endgame 10 times and I fail all of them, like a unit dies, that means I have to restart. But yeah, if I fail it 10 times, I can use permanent stat boosters. That's how it's gonna go. Another thing is the boots. I think we get 1 pair of boots, well, technically 2, but you only get 1, I think, maybe. I cannot use those boots until after 30 attempts. That's right, 30 attempts at a final chapter. That's a lot. That is so much time. That's why I'm allowing boots to be used after 30 attempts. That way I can maybe get someone to reach the final boss quicker than they could. But that's after many, many attempts. So that's what that is. Another thing is there is an option to spare or kill a character in Conquest. And I know it's a meme to kill them, but we will be sparing them. That's because of our other rule. We cannot let any units die. That's how it goes. It also just makes the run a little bit more challenging. And even though that character isn't exactly good, and I probably won't be using them, I just gotta make every character live. That's what the thing is. So then another thing is there's this no Lilith farming after level 99. So there's this character called Lilith that you can kind of farm up with in my castle. Pretty much you feed her food, and then after your 3rd time of feeding her, she gives you a gold bar, and then you can sell that gold bar for 300 gold, which is kind of cool. But if you do that over and over and over again, and you can kind of cheese, because Conquest has limited money, right? So you can kind of cheese out money very slowly but surely, and it's a legit way that you can do. You'd have to like wait days and days and days real time, but it's still something that you can do. So if Lilith goes beyond, it reaches level 99, we can no longer give her any more foods. I don't think she'll ever reach 99, because with how many days and maps that we're doing, I don't think I'll be able to reach it. But if we do, we'll stop at level 99, so we can't cheese out any more gold out of Lilith. The last thing is the My Castle weapons can be no higher than level 3. So what that means is there's like the smithy in this. It's a little complex to explain, so I'll just give you the basics. Pretty much weapons don't break in this game, and to forge weapons you have to have 2 of them at a certain level, and then you level them up. So it's like if I have 2 iron swords, I forge them together, make iron sword +1, then I need 2 iron sword +1s to make a +2, and then 2 +2s to make a +3. That's kind of how it goes. All the way up to +7. So you can make them pretty strong, but a lot of the weapons have certain drawbacks, which we'll see in the actual game. So there's the basics of it. But basically, when you're in My Castle, after like a map or after a certain time, real time, units will interact with you. They'll like ask for accessories for support points. You can get status effects like +4 defense, which is fine. That's not something you can control. And then they can also give you certain weapons. Now, some of these weapons are pretty bad. Some of them are actually okay. We can actually use those weapons. We cannot, like, overly cheese them. If I just wanted to, like, wait days and days and days, there'd be no point. So there's not really any point. But if let's say we get, like, a pretty decent weapon. I can't really think of one off the top of my head. Maybe, like, I don't know, the Norian Blade, that gives you +3 defense, and it's actually pretty decent. We cannot have a Norian Blade higher than level 3. Let's say that means we'd have to get 8 of them, I think, to forge that. So we cannot go higher than that. If we had 2 level 3 Norian Blades, we can use them, but we cannot forge them together. That way we don't have kind of broken My Castle weapons, because they are given to you for free, no price at all. So it's not like you really worked for them. It was just kind of an RNG thing. So in case we get too many of like one weapon, which I don't think is going to happen, this is just in case it happens, no higher than level 3. And with that, that is all the rules that we're doing. After we do the order, there is the regular DLC, which I will do. It's like the gold map. the experience map. We'll do all those in order right after Revelations. I'll just do them as like bonus things, and then after that we'll do the story DLC, which features the child units of Fire and Fates for, I believe, 6 chapters, which is kind of cool, and it actually gives them a little bit more character, and I kind of like it. I don't know. I'm not a huge fan of the Fates children, but I kind of like the story DLC. Oh yeah, I almost forgot to mention, this is kind of an important rule. Regarding spoilers for each route is allowed to spoil the last, but cannot spoil one ahead of it. So if I'm doing Birthright, I cannot spoil Conquest and Revelations, but if I'm doing Conquest, I can spoil Birthright, because I'm playing it in that order. And all these rules will be in the description of every video, so do not worry. I'll have all the rules down below in case people do any comment about like, oh, why aren't you doing this? Why aren't you doing this? Why aren't you getting free skills? Read the description. We're making this run pretty challenging. We want to do it as legit as possible and as challenging as possible, even though the game is kind of unfair sometimes, especially with Conquest Endgame. But after this is all done, I really, really want to do Fire and Fate's Wi-Fi battles. Now, I know this is a 5-year-old game, and it's pretty much dead. And last time, when I tried doing a Wi-Fi battle like a couple months ago, and I waited for 2 hours and no one showed up. So I'd have to get like a fan or one of my friends to do it with me, which I can actually do save transfers, so I can just kind of battle myself and then have somebody else on the other side. But I really do want to do some Fire Emblem Fates Wi-Fi battles, so if you are interested in that, or if somebody, while they see Fire Emblem going on, or Fire Emblem Fates playthroughs going on, and they're like, hey, check this out, I want to do some Wi-Fi battles, then sure, we'll do some Wi-Fi battles, but I won't be doing any until after Revelations is complete. We can do some other DLCs going on, but once I complete the Revelations, then I can do some Wi-Fi battles. I do already have a team set up in my other file. I've already grinded for over like 300 hours in that file, so I have tons and tons of teams and awesome stuff set up that we can do. It's just, Wi-Fi battles aren't exactly the most, I don't know, they're not exactly balanced, but they're kind of fun, and I like them, and I always loved watching them when I was younger, and it's always been my dream to do Fire Emblem Fates Wi-Fi battles, so I really, really want to do them if it's going to be possible. I do have some friends who could do it with me if no one else will, but doing some Fire Emblem Fates fan Wi-Fi battles would be really, really fun, and like if I do my Discord server, which I'll probably open up soon, we could like hop in there, potentially get into a voice call if like they want to, and then we could have like a fan jump on the show, and then we could just do Fire Emblem Fates Wi-Fi battles. We do like a best of 3 or a best of 5. It'd be fun. We could have like 5 teams and I'll just go at it. Or they could, I would have 5 teams. They could just have something else. Because I can't just go on and do like quick play Wi-Fi battles because no one's on anymore. It's a 5-year-old game. It's pretty much dead. But there we go. I think that's everything. So we're going to have a lot of Fire Emblem Fates content on this channel. I imagine it's going to take around 6 months, maybe? 3 Houses took a long time, so I don't know how long this one's going to take me. I imagine it's going to be like 5 to 6 months. We'll probably go almost into this. We'll probably be like around springtime is when I'm imagining we're going to beat Revelations. So I don't know. We'll have to see what happens. But I guess thank you so much for watching, everybody. I hope you're excited for this. If you're curious about Radiant Dawn, I have to have a friend play it so I can do the second playthrough, so that's going to take a little while longer, but we'll see if we can maybe set it up in between Fates or something. But for now, Fates is our main Fire Emblem game that we're doing. Regarding Shadow Dragon, we'll probably do that as well, but it'll be a little bit more slow-paced as opposed to Fates, because it's an older game, and I don't know kind of how to go through it very well. But this game I know pretty much like the back of my hand, and I want to get this off my bucket list because it's a pretty big game that I want to do, and once this is done, I'll feel a lot better about myself, so I hope you're looking forward to it, because I know I am. I'm going to have fun, I'm going to complain, I'm going to be tortured by Conquest, but hopefully it'll all be fun in the end. So I'll see you all for this Fire Emblem Fates Marathon. Bye-bye.